bathroom.
No, I'm joking.
Oh, I was about to say.
This is the official convention center water, that you get at the press room. And I'm always thinking to myself, this is not like it's recycled water or something.
There's just a guy in the bathroom.
Because it's the desert. They have they recycle the water from their bathrooms and put it back out.
Oh,
that's what they do on a space station. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do know that one. Yeah.
You kind of have to there. And on Mars, they're gonna have to do that too.
Rav, are we good?
Yeah, we're good. Let's just check it.
All right,
we're good.
All right, guys.
Finish this and throw it down on the floor.
Do you want to get the other one out, just in case you need it?
I'm fine. I'm hydrated.
I'll put it over here.
I'm hydrated now.
I'll put it over here. I'll
ranting, dehydrated.
Away from frame.
What are we talking about? The show?
I was thinking life.
Life, yeah.
Life lessons with Myriam Joire.
Well, how would we even?
You got the reference. That's good.
What's our introduction into this?
How about we kind of try to start to do a best of CS, like what we thought was let's talk about our experience and what we thought was good.
I think the best way to start this video is to say we have the wonderful Myriam here, okay? And you know what? I always mess up your last name. Can you just go ahead?
Joire.
It is Joire, isn't it?
Yeah,
Joire.
There you go.
So I guess we've started.
Yeah, I guess we have.
Yo, hi everyone.
One of the veterans here, and definitely a bit of a mentor to all of us.
Oh,
we can all learn something from Myriam.
I learned from you guys too. You're like one of my video looking up people. You do such good work, and I love your writing. So you see, we all kind of it's a love fest here at CES 2016 in Las Vegas. As you can see, the South Hall is behind us. Who's in the South Hall?
Well, right now we have
LeTV. So I'm gonna go there after this because I want to see that freaking 820 Snapdragon. Let's talk about LeTV because to me this is interesting that I see that turning around.
Yeah.
But to me they are in a way they kind of stole the show, and I don't mean as in the most incredible, fabulous, but they kind of sneaked in.
Oh yeah.
And nobody cared or knew, and now the show's over and people are like, whoa, LeTV, a force to be reckoned with. And I think the reason for this to me is because they're financing Faraday Future, which I covered for Uber Gizmo. Go check out my story. And it means, they're building $1 billion factory. That's just a factory.
Yeah.
So they probably have a several $1 billion budget to get the car company started. They are huge in China, we knew that, but we didn't really know that in North America. You know what I'm saying? We were like, yeah, it happens in China. What happens in China stays in China, kind of like Vegas. But then they showed, then Qualcomm announces that the first, pretty much and only right now, Snapdragon 820. If you guys don't know, the Snapdragon 820 is this flagship chip from Qualcomm for smartphones.
It's the one that everyone's waiting for.
And it's going to LeTV for a phone. At first I was like, okay, it's going to LeTV. I was like, wait a minute, they make phones? I didn't really actually know they made phones.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the phone, it looks like a Huawei phone, which tells me, right?
It does though, it does.
So that tells me that there's only one possible thing that's happening. The same factory is making Huawei phones as LeTVs, and potentially they have some sort of secret partnership. And so it's cool that they make a Snapdragon 820 phone, and it's more interesting to me that they're actually here showing these phones and have a real booth, which I don't think they even had last year.
I don't think so either.
So that's what I'm saying. It's they stole the show because they literally stole the show. They paid them way into the show, and here we are, and now they're a thing.
Well, it's crazy because we had them here twice at our booth, so we got a look at it twice. And you know what? The 820 seems to be did you play with the Max Pro?
Just
at all?
a little bit.
How did you feel about the performance on that thing?
It does seem to be a smoother, at least. Than
exactly.
It seems like,
but it's kind of skin crazy. It's hard to tell, right?
Exactly.
I played with it at where was it? Pepcom.
Was that Pepcom you did?
I think it was Pepcom. Unveil or Pepcom. And it was. It's a massive phone, and it's beautiful. But I'm like, I don't really feel that benchmarks apparently are pretty insane for some people.
We have. I think it was like 136,000.
But look, it's not about chips really. It's about user experience, right? So for me, the 820, I'm not looking at the 820 as oh my god, it's the fastest mobile chip, whatever, right? I'm not a gamer on mobile, so I don't care. It's just I want a smooth user experience, and I'm always interested in a phone that's different. And this phone is different because it's got the first 820 in a phone. And it's from a brand we've never really heard of or are familiar with.
Well, that's the thing. You have to remember, it says LeTV. So when you go to the side where Google Now would be, for example, or you hit the app drawer button, it goes straight to the streaming services. And it's just you need to have a good chip in order to go straight into a streaming service that immediately starts playing video.
Right.
And it's pretty good.
It's what you say about the experience is right, because it'd be really interesting to see that 820 and have the Max Pro against something that's running close to stock with no skin and an 820, and then see how much the skin difference makes. But
so no Samsung.
No Samsung.
So here, I mean, in case you're kind of wondering why we're talking so much, I mean, obviously we're all into phones, Android Authority, right? And I covered Phone for Engadget for many years, and I still cover phones for various publications right now, Uber Gizmo. But the thing is, the reason the 820 matters so much is the 800 series is kind of, there's two kind of different families of chip in the 800 series. 800, 801, 805 were really awesome.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
they were Crate based. Crate is Qualcomm's own microarchitecture, and they're the kings at doing this stuff. But they weren't really ready for 64-bit, so they started using the little big architecture from ARM in the 808 and 810. And so you'd think the 808 and 810 would be faster and better than the 801 and 805, but in reality, when for practical user experience, yes, they support 64-bit, but if you actually use them every day, the 801 and 805 are actually slightly faster and much more power efficient.
Well, they've also been really reliable. We've seen a lot of 801 phones come out that still provide a great user
exactly,
experience.
like the One X, not the One X, the OnePlus X.
OnePlus X, yeah.
And so that's why the 820 matters, because the 820 is the first 64-bit, you know, with their whatever they're going to call it. It's not going to be called Crate, but their own microarchitecture. And so we're all kind of like, you know, all of us phone people are kind of like, how's this going to pan out? Because will Qualcomm get their lead back in a way? Because the 808 and 810, frankly, are very disappointing chips. They work fine, but they're hot.
The 810 especially, you're right. It's like they had to, it's probably the first time we've ever seen Qualcomm go, oh crap, we have to do a version 2.1, or a version 2, then a version 2.1, just to fix what was, I'm not going to lie, we've got so many 810 phones, and yeah, we all know the overheating. The 810 was a mess for Qualcomm. Like,
it was.
When you have to reiterate it several times and then start having to underclock it like Sony did just to prevent overheating, you know there's a massive problem.
I mean,
there.
when LG comes out, last year here at CES with the LG G Flex 2 with an 810, and that's kind of looks like a flagship, but then 2 months later they come out with their actual flagship, the G4 with an 808. So they're actually going down to 6 cores instead of 8. You're like, something's up here. And then their V10, the follow-up, doesn't, you know, go to 820. It stays with 808. So anyway, so that's to me one of the things. But there's other things, and if you want, I can talk about them.
The thing is, like, Qualcomm needs to make sure that they get it right on the 820 because we have people chomping at the bit, trying to create their own architectures, their own chips, and everything. I want to talk about Huawei.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Huawei, right? Because we're phone people. So to me, after LeTV, which kind of I think is very significant, is Huawei was significant because even though they didn't show anything completely new, a lot of the devices they showed, like Honor 5X, the Mate 8, and the bands and stuff, had been launched in Asia a few weeks or months ago with different names sometimes. So, but it's nice that they really seem to have a global push for the Mate 8, and they've had a lot of success with the Nexus 6P, which I think is the best phone for Nexus users right now, for purists. And then the 5X is not a huge deal really because it's not that great of a phone, but at that price point and now entering the US is the big story, right?
Yes, that's the one.
So you now can buy a Huawei phone in the US legally through their website with support and return policy and warranty and all that stuff. For $199 you get a phone that is probably worth about $300, which I think is pretty cool.
And the good thing, like you said about the 6P, and this is the kind of the key thing for Huawei, that was their coming out party. Which sounds completely wrong, but it's so
North
true.
America and the Western world.
But for the Western world, it's that, you know, when you ask someone who Huawei, people may not have heard of them, but now they have, and this was kind of, the 6P is basically Google's way of going, and their way of going, we're here. And that's why at the launch of Mate 8, they went, this is the 6P, and it's like, they've finally got that credibility that they maybe have been slightly missing from the Western world at least. Granted, I mean, we've played with the Mate 8, and as lovely as EMUI is, it's...
it's the software that's... I mean, I immediately...
We love you, but no.
Everyone's been saying... I feel bad because we had Nicole on our podcast yesterday, and she loves EMUI, and me and Mark, who are on there, we're just like, no, we're not good.
I like EMUI. I don't mind EMUI, but there's a couple of things. So no app, but the thing that really gets me, and I love Huawei. They're great. They do great hardware. I mean, if you look at the Mate 8 versus the 6P, the Mate 8 hardware is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal.
The only thing is like little things that just, I think it's a culture thing. But you have a notification menu that's dark with dark text, and you're like,
Well, that's actually a Google,
so there's no notification.
It's a Google bug, it turns out.
Well, to the point of the SoC talk we were having earlier, I cannot say anything wrong
about the Kirin.
About the Kirin, the high
950
silicon.
high silicon.
I haven't been able to slow that thing
The
down
GPU.
once.
The only thing that gets
Mali,
me,
the
Mali.
the fact they go like the Mali. So far, nowhere has the Mali been outstanding in terms of a GPU.
Well, I haven't gamed on it yet, I'll tell you that much.
I've gamed on a Mate S, and I've gamed on a 7, both Malis. And yes, it's functional for everyday user. It's fine, but we're geeks at the end of the day, and we kind of when you've played with the Adrenos and you're like, what the kind of GPU power you've got there, and you go to a Mali, you can tell there's a slight, and it's almost frustrating because you want them to. Like, I would love it if the Kirin became, like, everyone's saying the Kirin should be, it will be on par with the 820, which I'm sure it probably will be in some ways, at least in performance.
Sure.
Even whatever Samsung come out with next. But it's all about that GPU, and that's where I think is going to be their big letdown, at least.
I think for me, the software is the only big issue, and it's not like killer. I just put the Android Now launcher or Nova launcher on there, and I call it a day. I don't even use their UI. I think it's terrible, honestly. And I love Nicole. Nicole, I love you, and I respect your.
She was fighting so hard for EMUI. I'm telling you.
No, look, I've always said this. I'm a hardcore purist.
Yeah.
I actually believe that what Google's done with Android Wear is the right thing to do, forcing everyone to have the same software. I want Google to force everyone to have a Nexus experience.
Me and Josh are cringing right now because
exactly.
We love you, but I think we both disagree that.
That's fine. Well, what do you see?
I agree that making Android Wear ubiquitous across all platforms is a good thing. We just need to work on the actual software.
Well, I agree. No, but I'm talking about like what I want to see for phones. Google do is not let anyone do anything but like Apple. Like it's like you get an Android phone. It doesn't matter what brand it is.
Well, how would you differentiate yourself then?
Hardware.
Okay, all hardware. Okay, that's fair.
I mean, where are the cool looking phones?
Yeah.
Like Nextbit, Robin. That's a cool looking phone.
We just had Nextbit here, by the way.
I've got to say, I'll say this now. I mean, it's off topic, but I played with it in September. Played with it now. I'm in love. I love that friggin' phone.
Ironically, their software actually differentiates in a significant way. But I don't think they should have changed the UI. You see, I think they should have done pure Android and then have added a thing where you long press on the icons and you can pin the apps. And in the background, it does all the cloud stuff. Yes, there's an extra settings tab that says, see, that's how I would have done it. And I wouldn't have done any custom apps. The only thing I would have done is a custom camera app. I'm totally fine with manufacturers doing their own custom camera apps because even the best third-party camera apps, I'm still not down to the metal enough, even with the latest APIs. And the G series and the V10 from LG really show that if you have a really good camera app that's native, that's bound to the hardware, it's the best, right? So I'm not saying people should not be able to choose launchers.
There you go.
I'm not saying people shouldn't be able to install their own camera apps or clock app or whatever, but I want every Android phone to come out of the box to be as close to be as a Nexus as possible, like Motorola
you want the Google
and
bones.
then everybody has a common experience.
Yeah.
They can choose to vary away from that experience. You can download the Samsung skin if you want.
Oh,
see what I'm saying?
This is a clever idea.
That's what I'm saying.
That's great because what you've done there is you've taken essentially, like, we know Samsung make great hardware, but TouchWiz, even though it's better and they've worked closely with Google and stuff, it's a bit bloaty. So what you're saying is perfect because
it's like, think about a Google Play Edition or Pure Edition on every phone by default. And then when you set up, you get the choice. Like the manufacturer says, would you like a default Android experience? Like in the same way as they said, you want the easy mode. Like, do you want... Yeah.
Are we calling stock Android easy mode though?
No, we're not. But my point is like, they know that there would be the choices. You'd be like, a pure experience, skinned, easy mode for every phone. You could not escape that choice.
So on that note then, we obviously know that all these manufacturers are doing their own UIs to try and differentiate further, yet the likes of Samsung have Tizen. If Google was to enforce this stock Android, surely we would then see some of these OEMs start to look at outside of Android and look to maybe, and yes, we've got the
Why not Windows Phone as a second OS? Most of that hardware can boot either anyway, and you've seen lots of Chinese phones.
I have a 950 XL,
so do I, and I love it.
Oh, I don't.
I love the camera. That's the only thing I was interested in.
They've done an amazing camera.
I love the hardware, actually. I think it feels maybe a little cheap and light, but people like phones that are cheap and light and thin. I mean, not cheap, but light and thin.
Light and thin.
Can we agree on one thing?
Yes.
Windows 10 Mobile, it needs a lot of work.
It needs a lot of work.
Their hero savior platform might just be the final nail.
I could go in great depth about that, but let's finish this Android discussion. I think for me, what HTC's done, where the apps that HTC add value to the HTC experience can be downloaded separately, like Zoe and Blink Feed and all that. I think that's the way to do it. I think that, and in their case, they're pre-installing it, but you can uninstall it, which is really clever. So if you don't give us the default option to start out as a Nexus kind of experience, at least give us the option to go in the apps menu and go, I want to remove TouchWiz.
Oh, I completely agree, because especially in the latest like Samsung updates, they've almost started. They got rid of all the bloat in the S6 and the Note 5, and then every update brings more and more bloat, and you're like, why?
The alternative is this, and I suggest this to Google: make the entire notification mechanism and the settings menu a app of its own, so that you can then replace it like you replace the launcher, and like you replace the keyboard, and like you replace the camera. Because if you look at every single phone in my collection right now, every single one of them is running the same launcher. Because I pull it out and I get the same experience. But where it varies is this notification tray. There's variations.
Google Now launcher.
Yeah, I've got Google Now on everything, right? This is a Nexus, so it's cheap.
I go slightly different, Nova, but still.
But here's my pure, well, it's also pretty much pure. That's something out that is, here, my V10. I got a V10 here.
How many phones do you have?
I always have 4 phones.
How do you have enough pockets for these phones and not break them is the question.
I have cargo pants.
There you go.
See, the last one,
pants.
so here, actually, speaking of phones, okay, let's pull them. I got Nexus 5X here, which I don't like. I got a pure edition with Moto X, custom made for me, my colors I like. I have a lot of pink. I have pink shoes on right now that I don't like, and a OnePlus 2 that I don't like, and a V10 that I love. So let me explain why that is happening. These are actually turned off. I should turn them on. See, I walked out of the hotel not even turning them on. So the Nexus is my daily driver, mostly because I'm a Nexus person, and I have a 6P, but I want to kind of experience the 5X in a very productive environment like here, and I don't like it. Look, it's a great phone, but the 6P exists.
Exactly, thank you.
So this is a fantastic phone, but the 6P kind of kills the show because it's so much better. And the 5X, honestly, I'm having so many bugs and problems
I
and
can
stability.
slow that thing down so easy.
And it's slow, and the battery life is kind of crap. Now that I'm at CES and I'm noticing. So anyway, this one is one of my darling phones. The G4 and the V10 have really been phones I love.
And that's Google Now launcher, right?
Yeah.
On the V10,
So yeah, look, it's the Google Now launcher, right? So the reason I have these two in my pockets is because I realized, oh crap, it's the end of 2015, and I have dreaded using these two phones. I really need to spend some quality time with them. So I said, what not best to take them to CES and actually have to use them?
Yeah.
And I can get into the gripes I have with them. And I want to make sure that the people from OnePlus and from Motorola are watching going, that bitch, we gave her these phones and she's slamming it on a podcast. Look, I love the Moto G you launched this summer. I went on and on. I reviewed it for Twit. I used it in the water out in Yellowstone National Park, kayaking. It is awesome. The OnePlus X is my favorite OnePlus of all time. Well, there's only 3 of them.
Oh, yeah.
But
I still defer to the one, just personally.
I don't like the 2, and I don't like the Moto X, and I think you missed the boat. I think you made this form factor of Moto was great on the original X and maybe the 2nd Gen X, but now it's way too big.
It's too big,
This is thankfully smaller than the Nexus 6, which was the worst Nexus of all time. As much as the 5 was the best.
That was the thing
Nexus
about the
of all
Nexus
time,
6, yeah.
Right? And then the problem of the OnePlus 2 is the hype, no NFC. Like, I know it was meant for the Chinese market where NFC doesn't matter so much, but if you put a fingerprint reader on your phone, you cannot not have NFC because Android Pay.
True.
And I use it
I agree.
every day.
And you do use it every day?
Every day.
I have yet to even I'm still on the fence about putting my credit card information in the cloud.
I don't even have my wallet with me most of the time.
Really?
Unless I'm in the car and I need to drive.
Well, what if your phone dies?
I have multiple phones, remember? So they all have NFC, and more importantly, I don't use any phones for Android Pay that doesn't have fingerprint reader for security.
Oh, fair enough.
So it really became a thing for me, Android Pay, when smartphones started having the fingerprint reader. So it started, like the GS6 and 6 Edge, the smaller ones, have pretty unreliable fingerprint readers for my right thumb, specifically my right thumb. My left thumb, talking about my left thumb is fine, and then the second gen version on the Note 5 and the 6 Edge Plus works great. So I use the Note 5 for payment. Then the Nexus worked fantastically well. The HTC One A9 works great, but the M9 Plus I had problems with. And I have problems with the fingerprint scanner on the OnePlus 2.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of did.
And so basically, any second gen and any of the Apple ones work great for me. And so I've used Apple Pay for payment for a long time.
The Apple one is kind of.
So I always have a phone on me that works, and then I just pay.
Much as I don't want to say it, Apple Pay just works.
It really just does.
Honestly.
So have you been using it a lot in the UK?
So I don't have Android Pay, I don't have Samsung Pay, and I have
Samsung Pay.
No, not in the UK we don't.
Oh, but you should try it here.
I need a US credit card to do it. It just becomes this whole, I've tried to use it, it becomes a complex mess. Back to the Apple Pay, and honestly, I've walked up, and the reason it's so good is, it's just, you know this, it's just completely seamless. Let me give you an example. This is a payment terminal. I literally walk up to it, they've scanned it, thumbs on the home button, go like this, done.
Android Pay is almost as good, but every now and then it'll unlock your phone instead of doing Android Pay. Exactly. And then it pops up.
I think that's funny.
So it's not quite as, I haven't used Samsung Pay, I don't know, and I don't really feel like doing it, frankly. 2 is good enough, right?
Why would it have to be specifically Samsung Pay?
Well, so Samsung Pay has an edge, and the edge is that it will work on scanners on terminals that don't have NFC.
Because it
plays back the magnetic waveform that represents your credit card and pushes that onto the magnetic head on the reader.
I think that's a small edge, but it is an edge.
The only thing that gives it the big edge is all of the rest require additional hardware at retailers. Right. So you've got X amount of percentage. Samsung Pay and the MST, 99.99% of things around the world. Anywhere.
Okay.
If you can accept card payments anywhere, like even the old school tills, you can accept Samsung Pay. And what they've done there,
near it and it just does the same.
What they've done there is they've just taken a concept of what is contactless payment, but gone, how do we innovate that little bit further that other people aren't? And I've not used it yet. I know people who have, and they say it's great. But even if it's just as good as Android Pay, the fact that no retailer can go, we don't support it.
The interesting thing in the US is that Apple Pay really kind of crystallized the payment, the contactless NFC payments, at least, because the terminals that people started adopting for Apple Pay, and they kind of had to adopt Apple Pay because it became a thing in the US. They all work with Android Pay, even if they're not labeled that.
Okay, good.
So if you have a working credit, like a credit card that is compatible with Android Pay, you configure it. It pretty much guaranteed, even if it doesn't have the Android Pay logo, you can do it because it's just NFC. Mm-hmm. At that point, it's just acting like a credit card that you would tap. So, and Apple, there's a bit more to the Apple thing, so it needs a bit more handshake, and that's why. So the Apple thing was being the first opens the ecosystem for Google and for Samsung because they use contactless NFC when they don't use the MST stuff.
Okay.
So, I don't know. For me, it's a nice feature to have, and I was very vexed by. I'm sorry, but like the hype leading up to the OnePlus 2 just didn't live up to it. To me, it's not a flagship. It's a fantastic mid-range phone, and when I didn't even think of checking for NFC missing because I thought that with the One having it, and at that price point and at flagship, I just thought it's a given. And what really vexed me the worst, and I think, things have changed at OnePlus since then, thankfully, because they've learned and the OnePlus X came out. But when I approached Carl Pei about the lack of NFC at the launch in SF, he gave me like the biggest bullshit answer of, well, people don't really use that.
Well, it was, So I've heard answers like that from other companies too.
And I'm like, you put it on your first phone, dude. Like, it's not, to me, even if it's not for payments, like the pairing of my Bluetooth devices.
That's a big one too.
Which I use all the time. Like, you're a Nokia guy, right?
I'll give you an example. In China 2 weeks ago, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I was trying to share the ExpressVPN app, and we were having Bluetooth issues because of the room. So everyone else, we were just doing it NFC, connecting it, then doing the wireless direct. The guy with the OnePlus 2, buggered. Like when I say buggered, but
he was in the corner crying.
The other thing that really got me about the OnePlus 2, and I've just voiced, and I think you might agree with this, is the OnePlus 1 was a 2014 flagship killer.
It was.
The OnePlus 2 isn't even a 2014 flagship killer.
I know.
So they took a step back.
We are filming, but you come around.
I know, Darcy told me to just be true.
Oh, okay. Well, there you
Hey.
go.
They took
Edgar,
a step back.
real quick, Edgar, can you check how much time is left on the thing? How much time is left on the card?
Hey, how's it going, man?
I just came to.
It's Dom. Yo, everyone.
We got 15 minutes left. Okay.
What's going on?
Oh, dude.
It's a party now.
We're recording.
Do you want to come up too?
Come on, come in.
Come on in. I think it's a nicer
No,
phone.
not even- no, I've been
physically
looking for
made
it.
like it's
But
a nicer phone.
Everyone's audio is getting onto the same thing, so I'll just.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Are you gonna stick around or what?
Yeah, I'll be down.
Okay.
All right, Dom.
All right.
Good to see you, man.
Darcy told me to do that. I'm taking away.
Oh,
no, there's a bunch right
Darcy.
there.
Where are you, Darcy? Anyway, so back to the OnePlus 2 for a sec. I think, to me, the biggest issue is that they really stepped it up in so many ways. The industrial design is, the materials, like its build quality is metal. It's really much more premium looking to me than the OnePlus 1 was with all of its plastic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't feel it's a flagship like we were just saying. And it's not about the display. I can understand the choice of 1080p to keep the price down. That's fine. The processor, the RAM, all that's great. But no expandable storage, especially when they did the OnePlus X afterwards that has expandable storage.
Yeah, exactly.
And no NFC are the two things that vex me the most. And the slider on the side that also exists on the OnePlus X is brilliant. So don't get me wrong, right? Like, I think they've done some good things. So that's why I took these two phones with me, because I was like, I haven't spent enough time because I haven't been enthusiastic about them. I need to get some seat time with them because it's the end of the year and these phones are going to sunset very soon. There's now talk of a OnePlus Mini phone or whatever.
It's
OnePlus 2 or
2
3,
mini,
2 mini.
2.0.
The one thing I want
negative.
from OnePlus is, and I said this, Myriam, just now, but we kind of go, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
The OnePlus 1 was an innovator. The OnePlus 2, it feels like to me, just on specs and just on a little experience I've had with it, that they, instead of taking innovation and experience, their primary goal was profit. I feel like they cut every corner to make money. Now, we understand companies need to make money, they'll never be around. However, what does an NFC chipset cost? It's the little things that impact massively on the customer experience, but they've gone, oh, do you know what? We want to save 20 cents or however much they're spending on it, without realizing we make 20 cents less per phone, but the publicity we got by adding NFC, the publicity we didn't get by not including.
Or the bad publicity we got by
excluding it, yeah.
You guys know what I mean. They've almost they've shot themselves in the foot. For 20 cents, they probably got millions of dollars of bad publicity.
That being said, the OnePlus X was the exact opposite for me. I went with such low expectations and I was blown away by everything. The industrial design, the materials, the sexiness. Sure, the camera is not that great. Again, it's definitely a solid mid-ranger, but it's solid all the way around. I don't expect NFC on the OnePlus X. I don't expect a fingerprint reader, but they put the good thing, the slider that was really innovative. They made it thin, they made it sexy, and it's just a great phone. And the price, you can't go wrong. Like, honestly, it's nicer than an iPhone at that price.
It is. That's what I said, because it did derive a little bit, but it also made me think it's better than what the iPhone was before.
Yes.
For it.
So
sure, the camera is going to be better on an iPhone.
That's the thing. What do you guys think is the future of OnePlus? Should they be trying to compete with the Samsung, the LGs to get the $500?
No.
Or is the OnePlus X their holy grail? Are they now going to become the kings of the affordable flagship?
But the thing is, everyone is making affordable flagships now.
That's a
They're
term.
the
That's
ones.
a thing.
I have to give them credit for being the ones who started it all.
Premium affordable.
And look at the Honor 5X you were talking about earlier. The Honor 5X is an affordable mid-range-ish flagship.
Yeah.
It is.
No, but I was just laughing at the premium affordable flagship, because this industry went from budget, mid-range, flagship to lower budget, affordable budget, premium, mid-range, affordable, flagship, premium, affordable.
I still like the way HTC says it, though.
Ultra
They call
premium
them-
flagships, all sorts.
I like the way HTC says it. They say the mid-range hero.
The name Hero is good, right?
HTC
the
Hero.
A9 to me was one of the exciting success stories of this year. It's still not enough of a comeback for HTC, but and I know it's very polarizing that it's so iPhone-like, but I personally don't care. Like, to me, all I see an HTC phone that delivers on the areas I wanted to see.
You see, I would admit though, on
Which
the
is
way
imaging.
to CES, I was getting all of the phones that I needed.
It's hard,
and,
right?
And yes, we need to bring one of the iPhones so that we can do comparisons if it ever comes up. But I was like, oh, all right, cool, iPhone. Oh crap, that's the HTC. So, that actually did happen.
It's
so I will say.
insane. And so the X9 that's being kind of rumored and announced or whatever, or leaked, whatever it is, I'm excited about that because it's kind of more return to form with the room sound, dual speakers, but it has the OIS and the kind of camera experience we saw on the A9, and it does look more HTC-ish, and it's a more of a, it's kind of in the same spirit, mid-range, right?
Yeah.
One of my HTC make incredible phones. I'm talking, you'll appreciate HD2.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite phones
Incredible.
ever made.
Incredible. HTC incredible.
HTC incredible. We're talking phones that this is a company that looked like nothing could ever go wrong for them.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the way with the ultra pixel, they misjudged where the market was going. And would you agree that between the three of us, neither of us want to see them go by the wayside?
No, and I think they got cocky, and then Samsung stole their lunch. I mean, ultimately Samsung stole everybody's lunch. To some extent, Apple's for a while there, and then now they're kind of Apple's stolen everybody's lunch back, really. But I think for me, it's like I'm glad Samsung's back. Like the GS2 to me was such a milestone of a device that the GS3, it took until the GS6 for me to actually care again. The Notes have always been interesting because they've until recently, they were like the only big phone that was any good, right? And then Huawei started making big phones, and then everybody is making big phones.
So,
But I think the story for me with Samsung is like the GS6 is finally a Samsung phone. Like, you have the Active that I would want to use every day, and that's
And I do. I love the
happened since the GS2.
I would love the Active more if I could take all the AT&T crap off.
Yeah, of course.
So-
To me, the Note 5 is the phone that this year, I know it pissed off a lot of people because it has no removable storage or no removable battery. But honestly, look, it's like they did the iPhone 6 Plus thing, right? Really?
Yeah,
there's
pretty
the
much.
GS6, and then you got the Note 5. And I think, to me, that's okay, right? Because ultimately, nobody really cares.
It's a Samsung
Nobody
table right
really
now.
cares.
Marshmallow.
In the premium,
okay.
in the premium price point, nobody really cares. It's like you buy a premium phone. If you want to get micro SD and a removable battery, buy a V10. You lose the stylus, so what? Like,
This
you
is
have choices, right?
This is coming from, people have called me out as a Samsung fanboy. If you listen to the podcast, I will say one thing. The V10, drop dead gorgeous.
It's also very shock resistant, and you can drop the
that
crap
thing-
out of that phone.
Actually feels like a flagship. Like, all right, I love, so beautiful. I like the G4,
I like it in-
but the
in
G4
that
just felt a
bluish
bit
color.
plastic. It just felt, there was just one little thing missing to take it from
Yeah.
the $400, $500 to make it worth that $800. This, if LG bring out something like this every single year, they'll soon start knocking people.
I have it on good authority that the G5 is, in terms of build quality and materials, is going to blow us away.
Okay.
So
there you go.
and it's going to improve upon the G4 camera. So they're not resting on their laurels. They're serious.
We'll put the V10 camera on there and I'll be happy.
I mean, well, the V10 camera, it's just the app is different than the G4. It's the same module. And
It's the same
they're
module,
talking
right?
about a better module.
Oh, motor module. Okay.
All they need to do
Holy
now
crap, right?
is fix the interface.
Yes, and so it's funny because we talked about the Mate 8. By the way, as an aside, the 1080p display on the Mate 8. Come on, guys, 1080p.
Disappointed
On
they
the
didn't
6
use
inches,
quad
you start
HD.
seeing the pixels a bit too much for me. But hey, because people always say like you only need 400 DPI, and I agree. Technically, you only do. But if you see a 600 DPI display, you see the difference.
Yeah, no,
it's
I
like it depends on your eyes. I got my reading glasses on; they're really good for close up. I can see pixels. So
This is like this.
but the thing is, Huawei, shitty software, right? Samsung is getting better, but still some issues. LG, kind of pretty bad, right? Like, I mean, it's much better than it was 5 years ago, right? Remember when everybody had custom interfaces, including HTC? And HTC, I think, has gotten much better too. But like, remember when it was really terrible? Like, it would slow down the phones, and you'd give the phone to somebody, and they'd be like, "What is this? Is this like another OS? Like, I've never even seen this OS, right?" It's the problem with these guys. Is that, like, you know, I hate to say this, but software, all the innovation. You know, there's a lot of innovation in parts of the world outside of the US, like Israel, France, India. But I think that the major software innovation happens in Silicon Valley, and this is why Apple and Google nail it. Because honestly, it's like Tizen. Look, I think Tizen is the best embedded OS. Embedded.
Oh, I agree.
I think it's an OS for watches, for IoT devices. It's a companion OS, and at that it's very good. But I do think that it's like China and Japan and Korea don't know how to do software. And that's why I want them to embrace the Google stock experience.
I will agree.
Look at the Huawei. Look at the Nexus 6P. It's the perfect example.
Yeah, I do agree with this, especially in the Asian markets. You have to. Okay, I have to say it. The worst one is still Color OS to me. I really am not a big fan of the Color OS, and that is my example where I kept thinking, myself, like, if we, when Color OS version of the OnePlus One came out, or what's the OnePlus One? I'm trying to remember which one of the Oppos also they had that, right. And I remember the Oppo UI that they came out with for the American market. I just kept thinking to myself, I'm not a big fan of either of them. So that's what happens. I ended up rooting a Find 7 one time just to put a stock ROM on there.
I will say, and I think you might end up hitting me in a minute, and I've said this to you plenty of times.
Yeah.
Stock doesn't quite cut it for me. And the reason is, I mean, it's really, really good, and it's got so much better, but some smartphones need to, sometimes I like, the reason I use a Samsung is, yes, the UI is crap at times, yeah? It's got a lot better. I mean, the Marshmallow update is beautiful. It's smooth. They've worked well with Google and stuff, but just the sheer breadth of options available in the UI. So I would take stock if Google just, they've almost tried to take Android but make it a little Apple-ified by not including an option for everything. Whereas I think if you're going to put that on every phone, you need to just give the options out.
That's why you want Nova Launcher or Oxygen OS or or what Motorola is doing, where they're adding it still the thing is not too much. I'm not necessarily saying that it needs to be
completely stock. Yeah.
I'm just saying that I want to be able to pick up an Android phone and not have to think of where are the settings. Where is that one setting I'm looking for? Where's my app tray? In which direction does it scroll? Like these little things that make you, and these are hashtag first world problems.
First world smartphone problems.
No, hashtag tech journalist problems.
Okay, there you go.
Because we have too many phones to review, right?
Too.
I mean, look, it's really a minor issue, but look, I know that people suffer through this. Like my mom decided to stay with a Galaxy she had a GS2 for many years, and she went on to, and I felt very ashamed, but she bought a Galaxy Grand Prime.
What?
The phone that I reviewed on Twit and completely destroyed. Because of course it was a Boost Mobile or some Virgin, some prepaid carrier. It was terrible. But my mom went with it because to her it was the most affordable Galaxy she could get, that was bigger and easier to read for old eyes, and felt like a GS2 in terms of user experience, because the TouchWiz is so old on it that it's very much the old school TouchWiz that she was used to on her GS2. And so my point is that we're not the average users. When you look at the average users, they want an experience that they're familiar with. That's why when they buy a Samsung, they pretty much stay with it.
Yeah, they end up getting the next one.
And they buy an LG, they pretty much stay with it.
You have a good point there.
But and that's part of the problem. Like I want to see, and I know that Samsung and LG, respectively, benefit from these customers returning. But to me, I see Android as a continuum and an ecosystem that people should be able to jump around. The whole beauty of Android to me is that you have a choice of hardware, that you can buy Samsung today, LG a year from now, OnePlus a year after,
Yeah.
and you should feel like you have a great experience on all three. But right now, that's not a given.
Wow.
Whereas you buy an iPhone,
Hashtag Android problems.
right? Nice.
Well, hopefully we'll be seeing all of those things be addressed in this upcoming year. I think little by little we might be able to. I will say though that on that note we do have to start.
should wrap
cutting
it up.
a little bit. We should wrap it up a little bit. You have to get places.
Yeah, I should go.
You have to go to the Sands at 3:00, right? Is that the one?
Yeah, it's almost 2:30.
Yeah. I mean,
fine.
it's not far.
Not
but
too
you'll
bad.
be fine. So,
Yeah.
but we want to thank you again, Mary.
Well,
Thank
thanks
you
so much
coming on.
for having me. Really
Oh, yeah,
appreciate
that was
it.
super fun. Thank
Woo.
you.
I'm pulling my cable.
It's been really great.
Pleasure.
But a little birdie
Yes.
told us that today's your birthday.
It is my birthday.
Can we? Do you mind, Edgar, grabbing the two brown bags over there?
Did you get me something?
So, being at a trade show,
Yes.
traditionally, and if you watched our Periscope, you'll see that pretty much when you walk in, you've only got a Starbucks. We were quite limited in what we could do.
Wow, it's a start.
Hashtag tech journalist and trade show problems.
You know,
So we bring you.
that's so amazing. And you got
Cupcakes?
me a cupcake.
And
Oh
some
no,
trees.
wait.
So, my spouse gave me a call, Theo, this morning to wish me happy birthday and said, did somebody get you a cupcake yet? Because it's a tradition.
Oh, really?
No,
Oh,
you
wow.
totally nailed it. It's been for years. CES is always, my birthday is always at CES. I'm always at CES for my birthday. And traditional people, somebody always buys me a cupcake. So you guys are totally living up to being rock stars.
There you go.
Cupcake,
Just in
okay,
case.
watch out. Oh,
Just
and
in case, though,
cookies.
we did get.
And
other
we
stuff.
have milk chocolate graham crackers, even better. And there's Starbucks brand. Whoa. And then I will share these with all you. You should have one. I don't know if you eat this.
I'm gonna have half of one.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll
well,
have
why,
that.
why don't you split one for
Yeah.
the two of you, and I will be eating these on the plane on my way home tonight.
There you go. Well, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for coming on. This was super fun.
Thanks for
We talked
having
about
me.
a lot of stuff, and so.
I know, and thanks for the cupcake for
Oh, of
keeping the
course.
tradition. It's like you almost knew a little birdie. A little birdie told you more than, apparently told you the right thing.
Yeah.
This is the funny thing. I just came up with a notification. Today's Myriam Joire's birthday. I was
thank
like,
you so
oh,
much,
we
guys.
got her on the right day.
Yeah. I
There you
mean,
go.
it's always interesting. Sometimes it's like the middle of it's been the middle of the week. Like sometimes it's press day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, just
so
remember
much
to head
pain.
down to the description so you can find all of us on social media. Right
Yeah.
now, for CES, you're under Uber Gizmo, right?
Yeah, I'm
So
covering
that's
for
what-
Uber Gizmo, but I write for Pocket now. I write for Android Central sometimes, Read Write sometimes. Mobile Geeks, Sasha and Nicole.
Yep.
We talked about Nicole earlier.
can find
the
her
lover of the wrong UI. I'm sorry.
So you can find her work everywhere. So make
And,
sure you check it
yeah,
all out.
Yeah, and then my blog, Tankroll Mobile, Tankroll Drop the Vowels, TNKGRL. That's my Twitter as well. So go find me there and subscribe. And I rant a lot about silly things like cameras and phones, and I use all the OSs. So like you, I use Windows Phone a lot. And you're right, Windows 10, Windows Mobile 10, whatever it's called now, it needs a lot of work. I really think Windows Phone 8.5 or whatever we had was pretty solid. And now we're like, I've said it before, last year I pissed off so many people in the blog world by suggesting that Microsoft should make an Android phone. This was a year ago here on Windows Phone Central podcast. And I'm gonna repeat it again. It's time for Microsoft to make an Android phone and bring all their awesome apps on, because
I
they
agree.
have awesome apps.
I completely agree. As good as
Forget this one app runs on everything. It's just never gonna happen properly. People don't care. Maybe from tablet to laptop, but I don't think from phone to tablet.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, with that being said, we do have to wrap up. Make sure you stay tuned for Android Authority's coverage all across CES 2016. And because the main camera over here might be running out of space in a little bit, I will just go ahead and sign off with, make sure you keep it tuned here because we are your source.
for all things Android.
I think there must be like 30 seconds left on there.
So
38
freaking awesome.
seconds left. I knew
That
it.
was awesome.